Good evening. Oh, wait, hang on. We're going to do the three, two, one. Good evening, good morrow, and good morning. All my magnificent, I cannot talk again. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Den of Iniquity. Welcome to HippieQueen Productions. We are continuing today one of my favorite series to interview a master. Now, if you check gander around you, you'll find that we have a very special brother gathered with us today. Welcome, brother. How are you doing today?
Doing all right. How are you doing?
Always fantastic, especially when we can fill the den with the good old boys indeed. Now, as you know, we are a huge fan of interviews, likewise asking the questions that dingle and the dangle. But when it comes to this series in particular, what we want to do and our goal here is to capture, your story, capture some of these motivations, which really brought you into the craft. And when you came onto TikTok and you came into the virtual brotherhood, so to speak, you caught my eye, especially with your engagement with some of the more, the different approaches to the craft and some of the trepidations across your journey. So starting off and capturing the story, tell us a bit about you and what's your Masonic career look like so far?
Well, so far, well, like 20, going on 22 years. About 22 years ago, my first ex-wife, she had a daughter with cerebral palsy, and her father was actually a master mason, and because of that connection, her daughter was a Shriner's kid. So we got to go and have free rides and free meals and talk with Shriners every 6 months or so. And the men just gave off that aura of like, these are really good guys. And they wouldn't really talk about what they do, and they wouldn't answer all the questions. They're like, you gotta come on over, then we can have these conversations. And I was like, that's something I want to do. And for some reason, life always got in the way. Things always, but after the pandemic, I was flipping through Netflix, and there was a video or a series from the UK. I think it was like Inside the Freemasons.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah.
oh, I forgot about this. I forgot about that thing sitting in the back of my head. Like, that's something I want to do. And then I'm watching it, and I'm like, this is something I really want. And I have the time. I have the time to do it. Actually, it's March 2021. I think Texas is opening back up. Let's reach out. So I Googled. Within minutes, I had yep, come on over. Our lodge is coming back from the pandemic in like a week. Come on over, come meet the guys. And
Wow.
Here I am a year in, and just got raised to the sublime degree of a master mason about a month ago. Actually, a month ago tonight.
Yeah, that was one of the things that really fascinated me with you and getting to kind of watch your journeys. Because when you came into what I'm going to refer to as the TikTok, not lodge, but just the TikTok brotherhood, right? You came in, and I think I first noticed your account when you were a fellow craft, and you were talking about this journey and some of the different things that you were going through and experiencing, and then likewise just to be able to see you come to this point of being risen to that sublime degree. Like, it does my heart well, it does my heart proud. But what really, like, when you first came into the craft, talk about some of those initial experiences. What was the most what moved you the most about that initiation?
Oh, the initiation, or like coming in, knocking on the door for the first time?
Let's talk about them both, right? Well, initially, let's talk about that first introduction, and then take us to your initiation.
Okay. So, I mean, immediately I walked in, said, hey, my name's Justin. I'm interested in becoming a Mason. And they're like, my name's Worship Master. And let's have dinner, blah, blah. And it was like immediately walking into like a family dining room. And I was immediately a part of the family. I was like, okay, is this an act? It's not an act. None of it's an act. It's just the way Masons are, in my experience. Just absolutely everybody's 100% brotherhood oriented from the minute you will knock on that door. And I was like, that's
It's really different, right? You get a lot of the like, it's almost like pay to play nowadays, right? And so you get into the craft, and
right.
that's almost so counter to what you find.
Yeah. Because I mean, no one really talks about anything. You can go on Reddit, you can go on Google, and everybody's going to be like, yeah, okay, I'm going to give you a little morsel of something. And that's something I'm trying to preserve a little bit of that with my TikTok, but also like ease the fears. Because I mean, I was terrified when I found out I was going to be initiated. I was like, is there a blood oath? Like,
Yeah. So have you
because
experienced other
nobody
initiations?
actually
How did it
goes out.
compare?
Nobody actually goes out and says, not gonna even prick your finger. Where they're like, you'll find out. Like today, today's youth are gonna be like, I even if there's an inkling of an idea, they're like, nope. So I'm just like, I'm not gonna talk about too much because I want there to be that air of mystery. But
You
I'm also not
definitely
gonna
have to,
tell them.
do a little bit of the fondling. It's not, you don't want to
Yeah,
just give them everything, right? You got to
right.
entice them a little bit. Okay, so what enticed you? What got you to the point of, really like showing up for the initiation? Because it's terrifying for a lot, anybody to start something new, but the craft is something different because you're not alone in it.
Right. You know what? It's I think it's just the guys being like, you're good. There's nothing to fear. There's nothing to be hesitant about. It just come in and take it all in. And it's like, okay, but what is there? And that's what I try to leave. But at the same time, I want to try and alleviate the anxiety. But
Now,
yeah, like the a lot of the brothers just go on, you're good. Just there's we got you.
were you afraid at all? Did you get into the Reddit? Did you get deep into the internet conspiracy about what
Oh,
was going to happen?
I got oh yeah. Oh yeah. And none of it was from people saying they were Masons. It was all the people that were saying, this is what I heard they're going to do to you.
Did you particularly now have you been initiated into any other kind of fraternity or society outside of the craft? Anything by which you had to compare to
Um,
this?
the only other fraternity that I would say is a fraternity would be the military, but that's like a 9 month initiation, just
No,
one long initiation.
God, I do not have the balls for the military. I'm gonna be entirely honest, nor the physical strength. But there's a lot
Oh,
of
they'll make
fraternity,
sure you
right? The
do.
camaraderie in the military is unparalleled in regards to previous fraternal organizations, or not just fraternal, but organizations in general, right? I know it's not just fraternal, but
Right.
how did that compare to the experience going, 9 months in, but likewise how did those two things compare for you?
You know what? Uh, I will say I never really thought about this until just now. But the day of graduation in basic training, my my drill instructor said, it's all an act, right? We were just trying to mess with your brain a little bit, just try to get you ready. And when you get to El Paso, look up my buddy. And it's like, what the hell? Kind of reminds me of being raised. They're like, hey, you're here. Totally different. You're walking here, and then all of a sudden, hey, you're one of us now.
So when you first, you knocked on that door and you passed from darkness into light, what do you feel like you most took from that process of illumination?
I don't know if I've thought about that. Um, Maybe can you rephrase that a little bit?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So a lot of times people come into the craft and they're searching for something. They're seeking for
Mhm.
something. Did you feel like you found that thing you were searching for when you were not just raised, but we're going to look at the whole cumulative experience that you've had in the craft thus far?
Yeah, I mean, when you leave the military, you have that brotherhood, you have that sense of belonging, and coming into the craft, especially in my lodge, it's a lot of veterans in my lodge because we are within spitting distance of the military base here. So, and we got guys from all walks of life, but we've got a lot of veterans, active duty, reserve. We've got some guys that are affiliated with military lodges out in DC. We've got a lot of, so it's a lot of military. So it's like coming back into that brotherhood that was missing for a decade.
If you were to compare who you were before you took on this journey into the craft, this process of seeking versus who you are afterwards, do you feel like there's a big difference between these two characters, these two versions of yourself?
Yeah, you know, like I've always tried to be introspective and try to have a reason for why I do the things I do, the reasons, like the why I am the way I am, why I feel the way I feel, and why I think the way I think. But this has given me more to think on and more guidance on where we've all been and where we're all going. I think it's given me stuff to chew on.
Well, Lord knows we like to chew on things here. What would
Oh
you
yeah.
say has been the biggest morsel, the sweetest little midbit, right, that you found to really chew on since coming into the craft?
Ooh, that life will end.
Ooh, ooh, I like that. Viewers, listeners, write this one down.
Life will end. What are you gonna do to make your mark? What are you gonna? Because we're all gonna be there.
There's your memento mori.
Yep.
Okay. So looking outward, especially as you get on TikTok, there's a vast amount of not just conspiracies, but agitators and resistors. When you go on live, you have all of these different encounters. You find a lot of, I'm not going to call them wackos, but I'm going to call them challenging parties. How do you choose to personally take these individuals on, having been one of those brethren who's chosen to kind of publicly declare yourself such on such an open platform?
Ooh. Well, that's a work in progress as well. Because you know, at first I was like, "You're full of crap." Then I was like, "Maybe you're just a troll." Now I'm starting to wonder maybe what they are hearing from. Maybe there is a morsel, a kernel of truth, but it's not from regular masonry. I'm starting to wonder maybe Because I've heard, and I need to do some more digging myself, but I've heard that there's those other organizations that call themselves Masons that may be doing things nefarious and giving us a bad name.
I think that's a really interesting one when you describe it like that, because even in the past, we've had brethren who have come in and their first initial experiences in the craft were based in a clandestine lodge. Or there's these really outward ones which use the same symbology, the same forms, and
Right.
I'm not going to say they twist it, right? Because everybody has the right to tell the story they want to tell the story. But with Freemasonry, we have it's a very strict line on what is and what is not normal or regular. So coming into this space, do you think it's important for us as Masons to kind of, should we walk into these halls to discover, to see what the way that they're looking at these symbols or these views, these truths? Or do you think it's better for us to stay more focused in the halls that we've been found in?
I I don't know. I think they're both equally important. Um, like we need to stay focused on what we're doing, trying to show that we are uh, who we are, what we are, and why we are considered real. But one of those things that I've been chewing over lately is maybe that's one of those things where we need to maybe start looking. Maybe there are those organizations out there that have been messing with our good name, and maybe we need to try to expose that. Or I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet.
It's not an easy question, right? It's not an easy thing to kind
No,
of battle with, because there's such a fine line, especially when it comes to the rules, the laws, the bylaws, the edicts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
you can't go
stepping,
too far into it. You can't. Yeah, it's like, okay, where can I go up to the line of exposing them without exposing what I've taken an obligation not to expose on our end, while still, because there's guys out there that they are legitimately thinking they are Masons. They are
yeah,
they they are as gung ho as I am, but they're going about it in a way that isn't recognized, because and we're recognized because we don't do the hazing, we don't do those things, we don't do those
right.
nefarious ideas. And so I don't know, maybe I'm just
So,
a young buck, I don't know.
well, honestly, I think, I would say the young blood is really important. We've got there's a lot of treasures, secrets, and experiences which are righteously defended by the old guard, and for good reason. But we are an evolving craft, right? It's a progressive science, and so it's in the hands of the next generations of Masons who come in that will take the craft from one place, from one level to another, where whether if it's rebuilding from the foundation or coming up forward. So within your Masonic career, within your space, what would you say, what would you describe as been the most momentous experience you found thus far?
Well, uh Masonically, I don't know, it's a weird time because I think we're coming up out of excuse me, we're coming up out of the pandemic, we're coming up out of uh hell, the craft is trying to come up out of the shadows too, because we've
You're not
got
wrong
the
about
old
that.
guard that's been holding. What's that?
I just said you're not wrong. My apologies.
No. So I don't know. It's like we're lost my train of thought now.
Oh, welcome to the crazy train that is the smoky den of iniquity.
Uh, yeah. Oh, okay. I know what I was saying. So, uh, really, other than my training and my catechisms and all that, I don't know if it's we're not out in the community as much as I would like to see it, or if I'm just not out there enough to see it. I don't know. But all I've really seen is my catechisms, my degree work, my my stuff. So I would say only because I haven't seen all the things that have been done, can be done, especially with like appendant bodies and stuff like that.
Right.
My most momentous occasion was being raised. It was mind blowing, mind melting. It made me emotional for a week. Like I'd just be sitting there and something would happen and I'd just start weeping. And I'm not a weeper. I'm a combat veteran. Like I'm just sitting there crying. Like I don't know why.
It's a deeply evocative right and experience that, I mean, I'll be honest, I think it's like I was one of those that came into it, like I remembered everything from my first, I remembered everything from my second, from like words, symbols, directions, even blind, like I was there. My third moment of the deepest impact, so to speak, I couldn't have told you jack shit outside of it. It was a spiritual experience.
It was, it was, I mean, I remember every single bit of it, but it 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 was mind melting, mind bending. Like you're just like, oh, if anybody is out there wondering, should I? You should. Oh my God. It it makes you just
I've got
like,
actual chills thinking back to it.
yeah,
Well,
right?
it's such a
And
livid
I
living experience. Now, you talked previously though about, you know, the memento mori, right? You know, effectively this primary teaching of sorts which comes within the craft. But being a combat veteran, this isn't your first time being exposed to this aspect of life. How did the craft change this for you, or likewise alter or deepen this sense of the moment to you?
I have no idea. I mean, because I came in to the military and they're like, you know, like 1 out of 5 of you are gonna die in the next 2 years because we're going to war. And I'm like, oh, okay. And it kind of like you just get numb to it because you're constantly being told you're gonna die in the next year. You're going to Iraq or Afghanistan and you're gonna die. Left and right, guys, left and right. Like, okay, just I'm
Jeez.
ready, I guess. And but the craft, it gives you like a, a spiritual awakening attached to it. And like not just like, oh yeah, your parents are gonna be crying for you here in about a week. It's like you're gonna, well, I'm not gonna go too far into it because there's things you hold on to. But
Yeah.
it it really awakens your spirit.
So, a part of this spiritual awakening, right? You're given unique tools throughout the process, unique symbols to help this awakening occur, to help these connections and this experience develop. What to you within the craft has been your favorite symbol? You don't have to talk about its meaning per se, but, you know,
Symbols.
likewise, what's been your favorite symbol or tool that you've uncovered throughout this place?
Hmm. Well, obviously, I love the skull.
That's
I,
badass.
yeah, I just got this one in today.
Ooh, man, you got the bling, brother.
Yeah, And but I mean, I think that the memento mori, like, it brings everything full circle. But I really like all of the working tools. The 24-inch gauge, that one really, like, because you're like, okay, well, how much do I need to invest in the craft? And they're like, there's three. And the last one's the craft. And I'm like, man, because I mean, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I work, I'm a student. I don't have, I'm not a retired old man that can be at the lodge 3 days a week, 8 hours a day. I can't be at every single event. I can be there when I can. And they're
Right.
like, yes.
What is that? So let's talk about the, effectively like the length of your cable tow. Well, because this is really important, especially as being, a husband, a man, and likewise a caretaker, a provider. You can't do all the things that everybody else does. So what is the thing of most importance that you choose to do within the lodge, within the craft?
I always try to go to a stated meeting. I try to go to every stated meeting that I can. I try to go to every degree that I can, because having those brothers around you is unparalleled. You have to have the support, and having the support is it's the backbone of the craft, is having the support of those brothers. So when you see them there for you, I try to be there for the guy that's coming through. Um, One of the things that I'd like to be there for more often are funerals. Um, I used to do, I used to go out when I was able, uh, with a group called the Patriot Guard Riders, and we would go to veteran uh, funerals. And I don't know if you know anything about them. They uh, they were a response to the Westboro Baptist Church. Those guys that would
Ah,
picket military funerals, and yeah, so they would do those funerals, and we'd stand out with the flags, and we'd do a circle around, and it was a real thing. But it's kind of fallen off. The need for them's kind of fallen off over the years. So
thank
um,
God. I mean, of all, I mean, on
yeah,
a certain capacity, right? That was one of the weirdest movements to really take storm, this deeply controversial thing to come into the culture of our country.
yeah. I mean, yeah. So I'm glad we don't need the Patriot Guard as much anymore. Um, but you know, I'd like to be there for brothers that pass on.
The Masonic funeral is one of the most beautiful ceremonies I've ever read. I've never experienced one, but even just in reading it, that was
Really,
one of the first that I got because it wasn't ciphered, it wasn't, and it's very clear. And even just reading it, I was like, it brought me to tears because it's like, oh, I mean, there's deep wisdom, there's deep lessons, there's deep, almost conclusion esque epilogue like readings that come from that funeral, right? And I'm like, damn, it really leaves you with this sense of weight on your soul.
really. See, I haven't been to one either. But I want to say it was like 2 days after I was raised. They're like, we need brothers to come out to these funerals, and I didn't know if it was like you need to be in you need to be a master mason yet, or you need to have your proficiencies all done. I still don't know, but it's one of the things I'm gonna keep an eye out for the next notification, because I keep hearing all these guys that are passing on and they don't have anybody that shows up.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking. especially because so many of our brethren who are passing, these are 50-year Masons. These are people who've done this shit
Right.
before we were even an itch in our daddy's pants. Like, then they've been actively engaged in this. Okay, so this is a good segue into another question, right? And this emanates from, what do you think is the purpose of Freemasonry? You personally, right? Not the usual one, make good men better, but what to you
Right.
personally does Freemasonry mean?
I think it gives men and families um, a chance to be around good people that are trying to be better the next day than they were today, and gives you the ability to lean on people. Because I mean, I have, I don't have family here other than my wife and my daughter. Um, all the military brothers that I have, they've gone home. They've gone off and done uh, their own things after they got. Um, so I mean, you can be on Facebook, you can be on Instagram, but that's not having dinner. That's not having a cigar and a bourbon. That's not having actual human connection with your brothers a couple nights a week, or a couple nights a month, or even once every 6 months. It's it gives us a chance to get together and be around people that want to be better people and want to be brothers and be family. And that's just beautiful.
That's a beautiful response. I like that. I like that a lot. For all intents and purposes, Freemasonry has been something that. Oh, okay, let me put it like this way: how would you describe Freemasonry to somebody outside the craft?
Oh, um,
I hope you know how much I love it when I can catch you like that.
yeah, like, how do you explain this?
I don't fucking know. I struggle with it all the goddamn time, to be honest. Like, I always catch my
Yeah,
stumble. I'm like, hmm.
yeah. Um, well, it's a fraternity of all sorts of men that are wanting to hang out and be, they want to feel brotherly love and give out brotherly love, and want to be part of something older and bigger than themselves, that, like, you can you can do so many things within it. Like, you can if you want to be a dude that runs around playing with swords, you can do that. If you want to be a dude that dresses up and uh, plays army, you can do that. You want to be a just a guy that shows up for dinner, you can do that. You want to be a guy that uh, is you want to go be the center of attention and be walking down in the Fourth of July parade, do that. You want to be that guy that is like totally introspective and wants to uh, make themselves better spiritually and mentally, and be a better husband, a better father. You can do that too. or you can do all of it or none of it, and no one holds you as a better or worse person, because it's what you make of it. We all have our reasons for doing it, and I don't know, it's like trying to explain just a
It's a very big thing for a lot of people in the sense that it's not
yeah.
any one thing, but it's a culmination of many things. I like to think about, when we consider a lodge, right? Well, proverbially, well, literally it's a group of people, but proverbially, it's shelter. And in that shelter, right, this is a place by which many roads meet, many opportunities come together, and they bring us all into this cohabitation, right? Do you think that the world needs Freemasonry, or do you think that Freemasonry needs to evolve or change with the world?
Ooh. uh I think the world is going down in a ball of flames, and I think especially in today's world where, a tragedy that has nothing to do with anything hits one group against another group until they're almost in a civil war. The world needs to come together, and I think the lodge is a good place to start.
I like that. I like that a lot. I think that was that was smooth, like a fine bourbon, my boy. All right. Now, this is a good one we like to kind of segue into this space, right? So you're now confronted with a very curious candidate, somebody who they want to take that step, they want to take that leap, but they don't they don't yet know what to do, or likewise if this is for them. What would you say to them?
I would ask, first of all, what do you think we are? Why do you think we are? And what do you think that coming into, excuse me again, what do you think coming into Freemasonry would do for you? Because there's, I don't know if it's all the trolls that I encounter. Um, they're like, oh, am I going to be rich? I guarantee you're not. In fact, you're going to be
I'm like,
spending money you probably don't have.
likely is like the dues are not cheap.
Yeah. And then you can start getting interested in other things like Scottish Rite. And you're like, how much is that?
Fuck.
I don't have that, but I want to do it. Why do I want to? But I'd be like, why is it something? Are you trying to grow yourself, or are you trying to grow your bank account? Because we're not going to do that. So that's the first thing I would get out of the way. And then I let them know, hey, it's all mind bending. A lot of it is mind bending. Everything is mind bending. Things that you've picked up throughout your life kind of start being explained to you. Why men have always done things the way they do things. Uh, why society is like it is sometimes. Um, it's at least that's the way I felt, is because I mean everything's allegorical, everything's how you're presented with something and it can be taken in 15 different ways. So that's the way I took it, is, that's the way society was built, with that foundation, because that's what makes a strong family, a strong man, a strong moral character. And it's been a tried and true way to do it. I don't know, like, I try not to give too much away, but still try to leave people going, that's what I'm looking for.
Why do you think it is that we do that, right? Because a lot of things today, it's all about information declaration. And even, I mean, you can find all of the secrets, you can find everything that's possibly there all on the internet if you really look hard enough. And so, why do you think it is that it's so important within the craft that we have this air of, I'm not going to call it an air of suspicion, right? But I would say, there is a unique need and likewise intentional purpose behind the veiling of not the secrets, but the experience.
Right. You know what? There's in in my research of the craft, there's this the tales of, and it very well could be that, oh, we're the keepers of knowledge from thousands of years ago, and we're the keepers of mystic knowledge, and it could be a little bit of that, a little bit of tradition. Um, but I mean, if we didn't, if I just told you everything, would it keep you coming back?
Fair. I think that's very fair, right? There's a need to kind of, I'm not going to say bait, right? But there's a need to lead and to be able to lead and create the environment by which you can follow and follow safely. A lot of times you can
Right.
be given everything, right? But that doesn't mean you have a practical ability. Like I can be given everything I need to climb Mount Everest. That does not mean my cracker ass is proficient or suitable to do such a task.
I mean, I've made this point in several of my videos on TikTok. Um, Somebody will say, "Oh, well, I've read everything I need to know," and I'm like, "Yeah, you can go on YouTube and learn how to do brain surgery. It doesn't mean you're a brain surgeon. You're not going to walk into the operating room and say, I saw this on YouTube."
Going to end up with a dead man. Is what you're going to end up with.
Yeah, and it's not going to be the way he expected. Like, it's yeah. I mean, one of my favorite quotes right now that I've been spouting is, you used to think that when the world was given knowledge, it would be better. But now we've been given Google, and it hasn't helped.
Yeah, I think I've seen that, right? They say that, like, if all you needed to make good men better was to give them access to the knowledge that they needed to be better, then all would be well and right. But that is not the case, right?
Yeah. You need
And
that
access to information is
guidance,
everywhere. Intelligence and common sense, it is not present.
right? You need that
Okay,
guidance.
so here's one
That's
for
what
you.
that's what the craft is allowing me. Like, I can think I've read everything. I am knowledgeable, but how do I apply it? And that's what I'm being given with Freemasonry, is those guys going, this is what I've done. Doesn't always work. This is what I do. And you've got those guys on your left and your right that are trying to keep you in that keep you in that lane, keep you going forward and being better.
So, looking at these guys on the right and the left and right, and the conductor by which we are given, and the instructions by which on how we are to follow them, why do you think it is important that young men in particular, men at any age, right? I say the young man of the mind, not judging any kind of physical component here, but young men are in need of this initiatic experience?
Oh, why are we in need of an initiatic experience? I don't know. That's just a human thing. In Cub Scouts, you do initiatic things. You for thousands of years, the Native Americans had a bridge to manhood. You know, it's something that we've always needed. So why do we need it? I don't know. It's we just need it. It's something we just need it. I don't know how to answer that other
Shit, I
than
mean, that's
it's something
acceptable.
we need. I mean, why do people have uh, even a government wedding or a church wedding? It's still a ritual. We could just go, we're married,
Done.
but we as a species need that. We need something to go from one to the next.
Okay, so next kind of like bouncing ball of a segue with this, right? So looking at the craft, this whole experience, what would you change about it if you could change anything?
I I think we need more unity. One of our greatest lines in masonry is how good it is for
Brethren to dwell
how does it
together
go?
in
For
unity.
brethren to dwell together in unity, and we still have issues with that. We have still have a schism between Prince Hall and regular Freemasonry,
Oh my God, don't even get started on that one. It is it we won't I
and
won't stop.
yeah, and I wish one day we could all just be one group. But then again, I'm a big lover of history and tradition. And so maybe we could just do better to work together. We can still have Prince Hall, we can still have mainstream or the tradition, but the animosity that I think some people still feel needs to go away. It's 2022. We need to have more like Michigan had what 2 months ago, where they had the 43 EAs come in a joint session of the Grand Lodges.
Yeah. Yeah. What an incredible experience.
Yeah, and we don't.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think that's probably one of my favorite answers I've heard thus far when it comes to that particular question. Because I think that was one of the biggest challenging points that I faced in the craft thus far is just been about like I don't understand why so many times where our principles would declare us to be equal, we don't treat or act accordingly. You know what I mean? Like it's like, wait,
Right,
I thought we just said the thing, and they're like, oh yeah, but no, no, or
but
yeah,
not with the
and
black guy. Like,
oh my God. But I'm part of the Midwest, and I'll be honest, there are sometimes where it's like, I did not expect to catch that vibe from here. Like I thought this would be the shelter where I wouldn't have found that, but somehow it's always made it in. So taking us to what will lead to be towards the end of this interview, what would you say we as the young guard or the new guard can bring or share with the old guard to help facilitate some of these generational changes?
I don't know. I'm pretty young in masonry, so I don't know too much. Um, I know when it comes to like the Prince Hall thing and everything, it's at least since 2016 here in Texas, we've had amity with Prince Hall. So I don't remember pre amity. I'm coming in 2021. But I think that's just one of the last things that we have left that needs to be rectified. There's what, 4 states left?
I think we're actually down to 3 after
Oh,
Georgia, because I think Georgia, I think it's South Carolina. Oh shit, I'd have to look them up now. Yeah, now I could be wrong, but I think with Georgia having just recently signed their peace treaty, that took the number down. But I know we still have some left, and on for the life of me, I just can't fucking fathom that outside of bullshit politics. But hey, I mean, to be honest, that's a nice part about being an entered apprentice in life, right? I am not a part of the Grand Lodge. I am not a part of any of the bigger organizations. I'm a Blue Lodge boy, and it's happy to stay
yeah,
pleasant within the harmony that I can find. And I've sat in Prince Hall lodges. 9 times out of 10, it's gonna piss people off. Prince Hall Masons represent the craft better than Grand Lodge of State. You know, there's an
really,
air. It's dead serious, and I mean this to the sense that they're like, they'll come in and they're in suits. They're understanding the ritual and right, because they take it with such a, almost like a much more historical. I don't know. They just seem to respect it more. They have a greater sense of pride in it. Versus like here in the Midwest, oftentimes, people show up in jeans, they don't really care, they'll be on their phone. There's just oftentimes there's a lack of sincerity brought into it. But every Prince Hall Lodge I've ever sat in, every Prince Hall brother, not only were they a fine looking motherfucker, they represented and respected the craft in such a degree that I was like, man, I want to be like them.
right. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't had that opportunity yet. Like, ugh, unfortunately, right now I'm trying to get my proficiency done, and I'm in a summer semester at school, and I'm a dad, and I'm a husband,
I
and I'm
mean,
working,
it's a
and I'm like,
lifelong journey. There's
I
no
want to
rush to
travel. I
any of
just
it.
want to go. I want to go to a Prince of Hall now that I'm able. I want to, but um, oh, another thing I really wish we could do better was communicate. Like, when is the stated meeting so I can plan for it? I want to go check out the Prince Hall Lodge here in El Paso, but I can't find out when their stated meeting is.
Yeah, this brings a good point into that previous question about the old guard and the new guard. I think that's one of the things that we have a right, and not a right. We have the duty to take on, and that's this progression into the age of technology. It's a progressive science, right? Technology and the internet and Facebook. And I think that's one of the things that some of the other brethren have been very active in. It's like, no, we need to be communicating. It needs to be on the level with what's going on and where is it going on. And everybody tries, but there's so many different portals that sometimes getting a single unified view of it all can be very difficult.
Yeah, yeah, that's one of the. I mean, that's one of my biggest pet peeves is communication. I hate not knowing when something is going to happen. Like, because I mean, I was a GM for Domino's up until a couple of years ago, and my biggest thing, I guess it's a part of my military training, communicate. You're tell me what's happening 3 weeks in advance so I can put it in my calendar and make damn time for it.
Communication, communication, communication. Well, so brother, as we come to the end of our podcast, to the end of our interview here, what would you like to communicate? What would you like to send off anybody who's listening, watching, or viewing with tonight?
I would say if you are thinking there's something out there that you haven't been able to mesh your your spiritual self, your mental self, your moral self, you think there's something lacking out there, you're probably right. And if you're even interested in the craft, becoming a Mason, knock on that door. You won't regret it. Knock on that door. I mean, at worst, you're going to get a good meal and maybe a couple phone numbers of a couple guys that are like, hey, you need to talk? I'm here. You won't regret it. I haven't.
I can match that sentiment entirely. Brother, I want to take you. I want to take. Wow, I'll take you. No, I want to thank you so much for coming out and joining us on this
Breaking your
interview,
brain.
dude. It's you. I'm gonna blame you. Ever since you commented on that video, I'm like my wording process, it just broken, just entirely broken. Maybe I just need to drink a little more. Maybe I'm not running on the
I
right
don't know.
octane of fuel. Shit.
And I was being facetious and just riffing there. And then you came back and you're like, and I was like, uh-oh, I did it again.
Yeah, it's all right. So it's officially your fault, right? So as everybody's listening, every time you hear me stumble, it's his fault.
Yeah, I tend to do that.
Well, brother, thank you very much. And likewise, I appreciate your time. Thank you for contributing to our story into this series of interviewing a master. I'm honored to have you on. And likewise, you ever need a friend, head on down. We got you taken care of.
I appreciate you having me on. It was a good time.
Always.